Um, well, let's talk a little bit about Diddy. So we watched. I don't even remember the names. Oh, The Making of a
The
Bad
Making of a
Boy
Bad
was
Boy on Peacock.
Peacock, and what was HBO? It's ID actually. My remote is far. I think it was The Fall of Diddy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the Fall of
Yes, The
Diddy.
Fall of Diddy was HBO. It was ID actually. I gotta stop saying HBO.
Yeah, but you can.
Um,
Um, yep, yep. Saw both docs.
now The Fall of Diddy is a 5-part series. The Peacock, The Making of a Bad Boy was a 1 hour and 40-minute
Yeah.
film. You see some of the same people in
Yeah,
these docs. Um, but then you also see some different people.
that is true too.
Let's start with The Fall of Diddy. They gave us more material. Why are you laughing? We ain't even started yet.
I'm smiling. I'm not
You over there
laughing.
cynically grinning?
I was smiling because I'm just like, all of this is so bizarre to me.
Yeah.
So I'm not laughing. I'm smiling out of discomfort
Okay.
because it's like watching documentaries is challenging. I said this several months ago when we talked about Kevin Spacey
Yeah.
that yeah, I like watching documentaries because they're informative and I learn about things that I knew nothing about, or I
Like
learn
the
more
City
about
College
things.
event?
Well, I knew about the City College thing actually.
I had no idea, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I never even heard of that thing.
I have a friend who
I was like, what?
told me that story. Um, so I think my issue is that it kind of when somebody is able to lay out the facts, lay out the information, I should say, for you, wrap it up in a bow in front of you, it just kind of makes it even more real. And it makes you, especially when there are first-hand accounts of things that happened or things that allegedly happened, it makes you feel like a lot of this stuff to me, as a person who is very much a TV buff, a lot of this stuff to me looks like shit I watch on TV
Yeah.
for entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, and we can talk about how,
Oh, oh,
traumatic
oh.
television is popular and true crime and stuff like that is popular or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah,
And
true crime is like the number one genre in everything right now.
and we are all sick individuals for sitting there and for hours consuming this,
Absolutely.
right? But
We
this,
sensationalize crime and violence in this nation.
because we're desensitized, we don't even think of it as real. Even when you're hearing a true crime story, by the time somebody turns it into a podcast or Snapped or a show like that, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's more of and now you're getting some sort of entertainment out of it. There's nothing entertaining about watching this documentary about a case or cases that are in progress, because it is all too real, because
Right.
these are actual real people, and these this this thing is in motion.
Yeah. Like in the ID one, Fall of Diddy. I felt so bad for the lady in red. I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I don't remember her name
But
either,
my
but
gosh. I mean, I felt really bad learning the City College story. I didn't know that. Man, that was super crazy. And I'm like, how did I not know this? I felt like I was living under a rock. I was a little bit like,
yeah,
I when I heard that, that was the first shit for me that was like, well, how the hell do I not know this? How
because
is this
we were
not
young.
like? How did his career continue after this?
We were young. I only
Yeah, I mean,
knew
yeah, we
about
were like 10.
I only knew about this
Oh
because
no, less than 10.
yeah, we weren't we
Sorry,
wouldn't there was no
my
reason
bad.
for us to know this.
You're right, but just
Um
as like a
I
person in the culture, like
but I think I said to you off pod that I think that this was something that kind of, I don't want to say it got buried. It doesn't sound like the people who were close to the people who died buried it. It just sounds like a story that like happened and no one wanted to talk about it after it happened because it was so
yeah,
tragic. That's what this felt like to me. I only
yeah.
knew about this because I have a friend who is older than I am, was around during those
I
days.
should I should have totally called Dre and asked him about it.
You should have asked him. He probably knows about it.
Yeah, I should ask him.
Yeah, like the friend, like I remember her telling me this story years ago. Um, I don't remember how we got to it, but I remember her like telling me this story. And so when I saw it in the doc, I was like, I know this story. I've
Mm,
heard this story before. I
yeah,
wanted to say she was there, but either she was there or somebody she knew was there, and that's how she was able to tell me this story
yeah,
a long time ago. But it's just bizarre. It's like all of it sounds crazy.
yeah,
And yeah, the woman who was in the red shirt and just her hearing her story and then realizing and then going over to the other doc. I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but going over to the other doc and hearing a story from a different woman that sounded, it
very
wasn't
similar.
identical
But
because
it had similarities.
it had a lot of similarities.
Yeah,
And one thing that if you know anything about crime or people who do things chronically in a serial kind of way,
yeah,
there are patterns.
yeah,
There are similarities. That's why a lot of the stories, that's why I think a lot of people believe the lawsuits that we've been seeing
yeah.
because the stories are not the same, like
But they
how
start
they
off the same
met
way.
or whatever, but they're
There are
very
details that are damn near identical.
exactly because
Yeah,
he had an MO. And so, when your lawyers come out and try to align you with Jay-Z, who is seemingly innocent based on the information we've been given, you got a lot of fucking nerve because none of this looks good. None of this looks like
yeah,
it's a lie.
yeah.
It's all alleged.
It is all alleged, but I think ID did a good job of going through his history and
Mhm.
showing you how there were different crimes, different incidents that continued to happen throughout his career that through power and influence he was able to sweep under the rug. I mean, the woman who was shot in '99 said verbatim in the doc, "My story has been the same from day one. It has
Oh
never
yeah.
changed. Diddy shot me in the face." And I was just like, damn,
And he
that's
categorically denied.
yo, it's 2025. Could you imagine for 26 years saying the same story and nobody's trying to hear you?
Well, that's how a lot of
Sad.
women feel. That's
I get it.
that's how a lot of victims of SA feel. She's not a victim of SA, but I'm just
No,
saying this
no, I understand
conversation
what you.
comes
I
up
understand
a
the
lot
comparison.
around victims of SA, and that's how they feel. I said that this happened. Look, the one story, I don't remember all of the details, but the one story is that the girl spoke to law enforcement, and law
Oh, that's in the
enforcement
other doc.
yeah, and law enforcement even confirmed, "Oh, yeah, we talked to her, but"
I can't show you how to report. Yeah, that
and
was in the other doc.
basically sent her on her way and were like, "Well, what do you want us to do?"
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
I think.
we take it more seriously today, but I think back in the 90s, I don't think anybody was taking it seriously like that. It was just like, "Oh, well, why were you there? And why were you hanging out with this person? And did you entice him in some way? And
Well, in
you know
that
what I mean?
story, the challenge was she ran to the neighbor's house, and it wasn't '90s; it was 2000s. But the challenge was she ran to his neighbor's house, who he probably also had a relationship with, and then the
Mhm.
sheriff showed up, who he also probably had a relationship with. And
Yes.
so that's the challenge in that story. Not that she did anything wrong in the story, just I'm saying in those circumstances, those are the challenges. Um,
And for people who
I
don't
think
understand,
ID. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say for real quick, for people who don't understand how RICO violations work, the reason why they're able to charge him with RICO violations is because of the fact that it's not just him. In order to execute what he's been accused of, many people would have had to help uh, organize, cover up, uh, you know, facilitate these things that have happened. So when you start hearing things like to your point what you just said about, oh, he probably had a relationship with law enforcement. Yeah, that's likely because
Yeah.
in order to do what he's been accused of, you'd have to have people in your pocket to do it and fall under the radar for 20, 30 years.
Well, not only that, but in the area he lived in, to throw those kind of parties and to live in that kind of community, that type of local law enforcement. It's a regular thing to interact with them, um, in one way or another. So it made sense with the whole sheriff thing, as unfortunate as that was. I think, I think the Fall of Diddy was a better doc, or I mean, just a better piece, I guess I'll say,
Yeah.
because one is a series and one is not. I think it did a better job of showing you the history of Diddy and the things that have gone on legal, and even the SA. Um, it was, I think it was just a better composed piece.
Hmm.
Um, they had lots of different people chiming in who were there, and what I'll say is this: it seemed like they were trying to create a historical piece and show you what's been happening over years and years, where ID seemed like a hit piece. ID seemed like, hey, we trying to tell you this guy is more foul than you ever could imagine.
ID
So
does.
here's I'll be sure. And here's this person. And
Oh,
we're gonna
he.
throw in a medical expert, excuse me, a psychological therapist expert person to give you the other side of how his psyche is fucked up. And it's like,
You mean
it
Peacock?
was really different. Like, it went from he had a weird childhood and who his dad allegedly was to like, oh yeah, this guy's committing murder and there's conspiracies that y'all are not realizing. And it was like, okay, all right. It was all right.
But you're talking about the Peacock doc, not ID.
I'm comparing the two, I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying I think ID did a better job at composing the piece than Peacock did. I
Right. But then
think
you said ID did a hit
twice.
piece.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad, my
So
bad.
that's
I
I'm just
misspeak.
making
I
sure
mean
you
Peacock.
were
Yes,
clear.
thank you for the correction. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Peacock excuse me. I think Peacock went up there and let people go a little crazy. Like the bodyguard who's been speaking on Vlad and all these places for eons. And I'll be sure they were like, where's his ops? And what wild shit will they say on camera? And
Mm.
it was like, okay. Like, I mean, they even threw Jaguar right in there as support to what someone was saying, support in air quotes for those listening but not watching. It's
Uh-huh.
just like, all right, man, like this is a little crazy. I also really like that in the Fall of Diddy, that last episode with his assistant really put the icing on the cake. I mean, you got voice notes, you've got text messages, You got footage of this nigga in the studio in underwear? Like, yo, fam, why are you in your drawers in the
Gross.
studio?
Just nasty.
And if you notice, there are some other things that were consistent. I feel like I shouldn't even be wearing anything red in this conversation. But they said multiple people in both docs, when you see red lights, that's his signal that nasty shit is about to go down.
That's gross.
That's what sets the tone. You gotta have the red lights. And I'm like,
That's
man,
nasty.
that is wild. But
And yeah,
also, if you were Diddy's assistant and he said you gotta prove your loyalty by having sex with somebody in front of him,
I'm not Diddy's assistant anymore. But
it's like,
I do try to. I know what you think when I say things like this, but I do try to put myself in another person's shoes. And I was, shut up. I was trying to understand, like, what level of power did you feel over you at that point in the relationship? Because it
well,
was,
he said it. He said he thought he would be fired, he would be blackballed, he would never be able to work in the industry again, all of those things.
but something that we talked about. I think it was even back when we talked about Kevin
Go
Spacey.
ahead. I got something else to say too. Go ahead. I'm gonna look up this lady's name.
Something that we talked about is that people have levels um of what they would do for fame, what they would do for money, um,
Mhm.
what they would do for some sort of notoriety or power.
Right.
And unfortunately, some people find themselves in challenging situations.
Yeah.
Challenging is probably not the right word, but I'm trying to make space for everyone.
Yeah.
But people can find themselves in challenging situations simply because their ambition clouded their judgment. So that doesn't mean that being someone's victim is your fault, right?
Right. Right.
What it means to me is that there is a price, right? It's not whatever Diddy was doing. That's not the price. It could be, right? But just in general, there's a price for whatever it is you want. There are
Okay.
people who are ambitious in their careers, and sometimes that means that they sacrifice having a family. Um, you know, sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes in order to have a family, you've got to sacrifice career or whatever it is. It could be
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
everything comes at a price, and everybody has a price. And I think the unfortunate reality is some people some people want to get ahead and want the limelight or want the money or want the power enough
Some niggas want a little head.
to to put it to push it to push themselves to limits that they may not have expected to be pushed to. So this person, that is to me what it sounded like, because there's a bunch of executive assistants, personal assistants that make a hell of a lot of money that don't necessarily work for Diddy.
Right.
The job could have You could have walked away from the job instead of having sex. Now, again, this was wrong. This was wrong.
I'm not gonna lie. I did laugh at his wording on one part because he was speaking about it and trying not to cry, and he said, "So I performed a little," and I was like, "All right, nigga, that's not the right choice of words right there." I understood, but I was like, saying I performed a little in a situation where Diddy is watching you is not a good word choice. I understood what he meant. He was trying not to say I had sex with the woman. He's trying to be cautious about how he worded it. But I just thought that was a funny word choice.
Right.
Also, this is not this is a separate thing.
Mm.
There's two people I don't want to see in docs ever again.
Okay. Who's
That's
that?
D Woods and Jaguar Wright. D Woods went up there and it was clearly an ops situation. It was like, I don't fuck with dude. I'ma get my shit off. And that's cool, but really she ain't have no shit to get off. Now I will say this. The blonde lady, I don't know her name, but her bandmate, I
Aubrey.
guess we'll call her Aubrey. Now, the stuff she was saying about Aubrey, that's what they should have had her go up there and say. All the stuff about losing weight, you look like you 2 cheeseburgers shy. That's not nice. But that's
But
not shit that you gotta go on a doc and tell us with teary eyes, like, dog, get off the screen.
but they're also trying to establish
That he's not a nice
who this
guy.
person
Sure,
is.
but we got that.
Right.
We don't need her to go up there and say some shit that America already saw, one. And two, that's not like the end of the world. He said you was chubby. Okay. He said
Now
you
what
was
I
chubby. So
okay.
get off the dock.
Now what I found interesting though is she was in the Peacock doc?
I can't remember.
No, she wasn't in the Peacock doc. She was in the Max doc, and
I
Sarah
did. I did.
and Sarah was in the Peacock doc.
I don't know. Okay, now Sarah did say he groped me.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I was getting the same feeling of like, Sarah, I
There,
don't know if you need to be here. But then she said he groped me and other things. And I said, okay, I can understand then. But D Woods,
there could also be things D Woods is not saying.
but then why you there? Either say it or don't say it.
That's fine. That's fair. But there could also be things she's not saying. What I was gonna say about the Peacock doc is, me and you viewed it very differently. I do think that yes, that they were trying to establish that he's a bad guy, and I think they tried to
I mean, the
build a
shit is called The
narrative.
Making of a Bad Boy.
Right, they were trying to build a narrative around who he is. But what I found interesting is that they pulled all these people from his earlier days.
Yeah.
And I actually think that those people did a good job, whether it was intentional or not, at establishing that he is actually a human being with feelings and with traumas. And that's, to me, and I'm not saying it made me believe or disbelieve anything, but what it did do is make me think, okay, there are people who care about this person. There are people who in this world who don't think this guy is the worst guy on the planet.
Yeah.
The other doc established him as a monster,
Yes.
whereas this doc kind of did both. It was kind of weird to me the way they did it. Like,
They
because at one
tried
point
to,
I
it
was
was 75
confused.
25.
Right. At one point I was confused. I was like, whose side are you on? Or is this just good journalism? Because if it's good journalism, you shouldn't really be on either side.
You're just supposed to present the facts.
You're supposed to
And
present the facts. So that's why I'm like, okay, I see what they did. They established him as a human being, which I don't think the other doc did. I don't think the other doc tried to do at all.
no, no.
I think they tried to say, okay, and you know what? That I appreciated that angle. I did not. That was, of the two, I would pick the other one. But I do appreciate that they did that, because I think when you think about the viewing public and you think about some people's reactions to all of the stories that have come out, some people are on some, but he's just a kinky guy.
Yeah.
Or or I mean, what did Cassie do? Surely Cassie did something that would make him hit her, or you know what I mean? So, and surely these women were throwing themselves at him, and that's why he felt like he could do whatever. I think what this
Those people are
documentary,
gross, by the way.
they're disgusting. But what I think it does is it allows those people and people like me and you to watch the doc and somehow come to a conclusion one way or another between how they establish that he's human and then later on saying, well, he's human, but
But he's
should
putting
humans
hits
be
out
doing
on
this?
people. But he's putting hits out on people.
Right. So I kind of like that they did it that way because I think that it made space for a wider audience. Um,
But this one
but
was far more salacious.
yeah.
I mean, the things that Al B. Shore was saying, the things that the bodyguard was saying, and let me tell you something. I'm not gonna say that liar. Yeah, that's really what I'm trying to say. I'm not gonna say the bodyguard is a complete liar, but man, he was lying his ass off. And even if he wasn't, he's completely full of shit, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Hmm.
And also, before I'm gonna get back to the bodyguard. The way they jumped around on the Peacock dock was really weird. I did not like it.
Yeah.
It was bad. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. It was.
Anyway,
It was.
they get to
Yeah.
the point when
Uh
Biggie dies.
huh.
And the bodyguard starts saying all these things, his feelings, his thoughts, his speculations. And he made it seem like when Big died, it was the worst shit in the world to him. But the motherfucker stayed there for 8 more years.
I didn't understand that.
Completely full of shit.
Well, and that's why when he's been in the public, way before these documentaries were even a thought, when he's been in the public before, I've asked those same questions like, well, why did he continue to be the bodyguard? Somebody said, oh, well, he was just trying to protect Cassie at one point. And
Stop.
I just don't,
Stop.
even his reason for leaving just kind of fell flat for me
Because
when
Diddy's mom.
he said he got into something with Diddy's mom. But the part that didn't make sense to me is I could totally see him walking off the job and being like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. But Diddy came out and defended him. It
In his
wasn't like
story,
this.
you're right.
Yeah, in his story, it wasn't like this big blow up happened and he wasn't protected or his job was in jeopardy or whatever. And maybe you don't need that, right? Like maybe he was already at his breaking point. So maybe what he's saying is what happened and that's it. But I just did have questions about that. I was just like, I don't know if I totally understand his reason for leaving. It just didn't make sense to me. I also wanted to go back to I'll Be Sure real quick. I know
Oh
you
man,
mentioned
we
you
got
were
to we
putting
got to
the
spend some
time.
time on I'll be sure.
I don't want to say too much. What I will say about I'll Be Sure is I'll Be Sure. Anytime I see him talk, it's usually about it's of or adjacent to this s- area of information, and I hope that I'll Be Sure finds peace. However he needs to find peace because sometimes we don't always get what we want out of a situation.
Right.
Sometimes we don't always get um the closure or the clarity that we think we need. I'll Be Sure is a man who is not at peace.
Right.
When he speaks, it's very clear that he's not at peace. It's very clear that he's gone through things in his life that have been traumatic and harmful and hurtful to him. And I don't want to speak on what he alleged or anything like that because I don't know enough to speak on those things. And I think, like he says, some of it is in litigation already. So I will leave that there. And if we need to talk about it at a later day, we can. But all I want to say is that I really, really, really hope that he finds peace. However, he gets to that peace. I hope he finds peace. He seemed like a tortured soul
Yeah.
watching him. And that's not to say that I don't believe him or anything like that. I don't know what to believe when it comes to the things he's saying. I have no idea. And that's why I'm not going to sit here and speculate one way or another. I'm just going to say that I hope he finds peace because it is clear that he does not have that peace. And how could you when a man stole your family?
Okay, and that's where we're gonna stop because that's where I would like to start actually.
That's all I'm gonna say.
No, and that's where I'm about to go off. So let me start. Let me just take a pause and say something that I forgot to say. Both pieces did a good job of showing the legal documentation and back up the things they were saying in certain points.
Right.
Because sometimes they was telling stories and it was just wild, crazy shit. Other times it was word for word, verbatim, what was in the litigation, what was in the legal documents. Okay, now I'll be sure, player, sir, I'm not going to speak about the allegations. You wild out. That's between you, God, and the court system. But what I am going to say is this.
Why is my brain on Wu-Tang? Because you said you got and you got
You,
I'm
God,
on
shout out to
Wu-Tang.
you, God. Shout out to you, God. Now, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Get in it.
Nah, no disrespect for you, God. Much love to you, God, and the rest of the Wu-Tang clan. Now, I have a problem. I know this whole shit was to villainize Diddy, and that's fine. It was a hit piece. And that's why he's suing them for 100 mil or whatever it is. No problem. But one, I'll be sure contradicted himself. He said we wasn't homies. We were borderline associates. I wasn't really his mans or nothing. Then when they get to the part where Kim Porter leaves him and goes with Diddy, he says, in the hood, we got a thing. I can't remember the exact quote, but he says, if you my brother, my ex is off limits. Nigga, you just said that niggas is not cool.
Okay, but I took that to mean that yeah, like they weren't friends like that, but they
Then
did
that's
work.
it.
Hold on. But they did work together and they did have a let me finish. They did have a working relationship. It seemed to be a good working relationship up to that point.
That's
Um,
not, I'll be sure made it seem. He said he was just around. In the beginning, he says he was just around at Uptown. He was cool with some people, but not with me. He was cool with them.
okay, well then maybe
Even when he says
I
the story
understood
of
that
Diddy coming in the session,
incorrectly.
he says, I'm in a session with Kim and our baby, Quincy, and Diddy just comes in the session. Like, nigga, why are you here? It wasn't
But
boys.
they
They
weren't
weren't
boys, but
dunnies.
I guess for him it was like we knew each other, like, and you walked into us. No, but think about it. Think about it. All right, I'm not because I'm not gonna defend Diddy for walking into the studio and seeing a man with his girl and his baby and trying to take the girl away from
No, I'm
him.
not
Like I'm
defending
not
Diddy
gonna
either.
defend
I'm
that.
not defending Diddy either. What I'm saying is, I'll be sure contradicted himself. That's what I'm saying. I'm not defending Diddy. I'm saying we got a clip of you saying we were barely associates. Then in the next moment, you say, if we're brothers, my ex is off limits. It can't be both. Either you are barely associates and you were not cool, or you were brothers. Pick a side. That's number one. Number two, my bigger problem is that we often villainize the person who quote unquote took our significant other instead of villainizing your significant other. Now, are there rare circumstances? Are there rare
That's you off pot.
circumstances? I'm sorry?
I said I agree. I said that to you off pot. I
Right.
also just think that, again, in context, Diddy is a menace.
Diddy's
So
foul, and that's fine. I'm not
so
defending
everything
Diddy.
he's done now looks even more crazy
Absolutely. But
than it
let's not
would be
forget,
on an
let's
island
not
on its
forget that
own.
this nigga had a newborn baby with Kim Porter. And that was his lady. So let's just be honest here. And you can have a shrine of Kim Porter in your house if you want. That's your business, I'll be sure. But let's talk a little bit about the woman who left you and got with the next hotter nigga. I'm sick of niggas always, and women do the same thing. Women will say, oh, that bitch took my man. She's a piece of shit, and do all the next stuff that they do. But they won't talk about the nigga. The nigga's a piece of shit too. because he was with you and got with this other chick. Very often we blame the other person and not the person we have a commitment with. You had a commitment
That's
with
true.
Kim Porter. You need to blame Kim Porter. Kim Porter said, fuck you, me and the baby are out. Kim
Yeah.
Porter allowed rumors to circulate for years that Quincy was adopted by Diddy. That is on Kim Porter, my nigga. That is on the lady you got pictures of on your wall in the crib. That's on her. Is Diddy foul? Yes. But you know who's more foul in that instance? Kim Porter. I'm sorry. Truth is truth. The person you are committed to has an obligation and a responsibility. And too often we allow them to be completely ignored so we can aim at the next person, man, woman, whatever.
I get
That's
that the
not the person who owes you shit. Yes, there are instances where, yes, if my close friend, quote unquote, steals my lady, yes, I got a problem with them too. But still, the person who's more foul is the person who has a commitment to you. Because they are saying fuck you and that commitment and your trust and all these other things that are supposed to be part of the unification of the two of you. Kim Porter was foul. That's what I'm saying in short.
No, I know. And I guess the reason why I guess the reason why nobody's really focused on that is
Because
because
Diddy's a monster. I got it.
oh no, I was gonna say because Kim Porter is no longer with us.
Well, we got to hear about her in both docs, but in neither
No, I
doc did
understand.
anybody say, hey, man, she was fucked up for what she did.
Well, because
People
she
said Diddy gets what he wants. He
because she
wasn't going to
passed
give up until
away.
he got her.
I, th-
But dog, she did some foul shit. Listen, I've done foul shit too. When I pass, they're going to say I did foul shit. It's cool. We
I,
all
under,
do foul shit.
I
I just
understand.
want niggas to recognize that Kim Porter did some foul shit.
I understand that. I just think that that's why nobody's focusing on that because she's not around to defend herself and she's passed away and now the way she's being discussed is because I'll be sure is alleging things about her death. So I think that's why ain't nobody thinking about how they met anymore. I think that ship sailed. And again, I'm not saying that you're wrong because
I mean, I'll be sure was saying he stole my family. In not those words, but in more words than that. He's saying he stole my family. No, nigga, your family left.
I think it was a little bit of both. But yes, I think it was a little bit of both. And the reason I say it was a little bit of both because if a man walks into a studio with you, your girl, and your baby sitting in there and turns to your girl and is like, I'm going to get you one way or another, that man set out to take your girl from you. And that is why Diddy is also I think just as wrong because he didn't walk into this he didn't accidentally fall in love with her. He sought her out. He sought her
He's
out.
foul. He's foul. But Kim
He
Porter's
sought
more
her
foul.
out and then would continue to seek women out in different ways over time allegedly.
Oh
He
yeah,
he
he
sought her out.
Cassie was with Ryan Leslie.
And people are saying that and it seems to always have been said that Kim Porter did not there is no evidence of any abuse, but we really don't know.
All right, well that's a different topic. I'm just talking about the left you part.
I don't think it's a different topic because if you're talking about someone who grooms,
Kim Porter was an adult. She won 20. She won 19.
oh, are only minors you can only groom minors?
Grooming is a term specifically for minors, yes.
Okay.
How old was Kim Porter when she met Diddy? Oh, okay, maybe not. The thing that immediately popped up said late teens or early 20s. Well, is that true? What website is this from? Because the doc didn't say that.
Everything that I see here, I just Googled grooming. Grooming doesn't only apply to children, it also applies to adults. It's just a different type of grooming.
All right.
I'm only saying that, and I don't know that she was groomed. I'm just saying this is a person who is being accused of grooming. So I don't know. I don't know. I hate this stuff. Cause I don't know. Like there's so many variables that are unknown. And again, Kim Porter has never come out and said the things that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And she's no longer around to corroborate or disprove anything either.
I just think we need to focus on the person we're committed to when these things happen. I have been
Well,
in a
I
situation where I broke up with where me and a person I was with broke up and they started fucking somebody I knew. And everybody was telling me, hey man, you should be mad at that guy. And I said, why? We're not close friends. Do we have a relationship? Sure. But that's not the person who's foul here. If we're
well,
gonna choose a
I
person
agree
for me
with
to
you.
be mad at, it's the person who started fucking a guy I know.
I agree with you. I don't I've never I've never disagreed with you saying that. In fact, I like I said it to you off pod. I was like, but what about the fact that she left her family?
Right.
I said that. I'm not in I'm not in disagreement with that, but I think that there's something larger happening. When you put things into context, it's not just the thing anymore. It's a bunch of things. And that's why I'm trying to look at the bigger picture when it comes to what I'll be sure is saying and the pattern of behavior that Diddy has allegedly displayed. When you start piecing all those things together, maybe the story doesn't seem so straightforward anymore, is all I'm saying. And I don't know because again, she has never said. So maybe it was as you're saying, where she was just like, well, he's the guy making all the money and he's the popular
Listen,
guy and
she wanted to take that,
cuz some
and
cuz
she left.
because some people do feel that way. Some people
Yeah,
will find someone better and they will leave the person they're with.
it's called monkey bars. You hold on to one until you can swing to the next.
Never heard that term before.
An old comedian said it.
Okay.
It's the monkey bar. Sometimes that's what you do. You hold on to one just long enough till you could swing to the next. And once you got that one, you let go and you come back here.
It makes perfect sense. I just have never heard it before, but yeah.
Sorry, but that's what she did. And maybe everything that was after that, maybe there was foul play, was maybe there wasn't. I don't know. I'm only speaking about the inception of the relationship.
Okay. I hear you. I'm not, like I said, I had questions about it too. But I don't know. I don't know. There's so much other stuff.
Yes, there is.